Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Antonia and here on this channel I discuss everything fiber arts, and today I wanted to share with you guys my everything I knit in 2023. So I rounded up all of the projects that I did in my little notebook and I found that I actually had 17 things that I made this year. Some of them are larger projects like cardigans or sweaters, but a lot of them are also small things like hats or socks and that kind of stuff. So I figured instead of going in kind of like a chronological order of everything, because I honestly don't really remember, especially towards the beginning of 2023, what projects I had were in what order, I just figured I would kind of do it by section. So first I'll go through like all my sweaters, then the cardigans, and then my hats and accessories, and then my socks. So I've got all of my stuff over here and hopefully we can get through all of it. So here's most of the stuff that I've got, minus my accessories. So I'll go through these all like one by one and you can kind of see the major color scheme that I ended up with this year. I also wanted to do kind of like a try on of all of these things because usually when I post about all the projects that I finish, I don't actually try them on in any of my videos. So I'm going to be trying on every single one of these pieces and letting you guys know my final thoughts of them after actually having worn them for a little bit throughout the year, and anything that I would change if I were to be restarting it or making it again. And before that I actually get into all the knitting, I guess to share with you guys is I actually made this shirt as well. This was a project of mine this year and it's just like a simple buttoned like collared shirt. This was a really affordable project that I did because I actually just got this fabric for $3 at Fabricland. It was like $3 a meter and I didn't know what project I was going to do with it yet, so I just picked some up. And then I found the pattern for this at a free store while I was camping during the summer. And it was like an old 1950s, 1960s men's work shirt pattern. So I just cropped it a bit at the bottom. Also because I just didn't have enough fabric to make the full pattern. And then the buttons I took off of a shirt that I had previously thrifted and didn't wear that much. So all in all, I like to tell myself that this was a nice like $3 shirt that I made, and I wear it all the time in the summer when I want like a little extra layer to pop on top of my outfit. And the fabric itself is just polyester, but it's this kind of crepey fabric, so it kind of looks a little bit different than a normal like linen or cotton shirt or something. So yeah, unexpectedly I do get a lot of wear out of this one, and although it's not knitting, I do think I wore this in my first podcast journal video, so I kind of wanted to share with you guys how I came to have this in my wardrobe. The first project that I have to share with you guys from this year is my Moby sweater. So I knitted this one up in the Patons Classic Wool Worsted in dark gray mix, and I knitted a size medium of this. I had made a couple of sweater patterns by Petite Knit previously, and I saw that this pattern in particular, compared to some of her other patterns, people had been saying that they kind of wanted a little bit more positive ease like in the sides and in especially like the underarm area, because this particular construction doesn't really have any short rows in the sleeves to kind of like relax the shoulders. So to kind of make sure I had the right oversized kind of boxy fit, I decided to make a medium. Normally in Petite Knit sizing standards, I'm usually like an extra small or a small depending on what it is. So yeah, I'm really happy with the size that I chose for this, and the yarn that I chose for this, I'm still pretty happy with it. This one does have a bit of a tendency to pill versus some of the other yarns that I've used in the past, but it's a really affordable and accessible option from being able to get a 100% wool just from Michaels. So this is kind of how the fit looks on me with a size medium, and if you want to see like the stitch definition for the cables and everything, this is how it turned out, despite the yarn being a kind of heathered mixed yarn. I did get some pretty good stitch definition. You can see the patterns and everything in it. And if I were to make another one of this, I think I would want to make one in a lighter color and one with some mohair. I'm glad I didn't use a mohair for this one because this yarn is a little bit thicker than a DK weight anyway. It's kind of like worsted weight. Well, obviously it's called Classic Wool Worsted. So I think it would have already been way too thick if I did add mohair to it. And secondly, since it's already like a mixed dark gray, I didn't want to add any other halo effect to it that might make the stitch definition and patterns even less legible than they already were. So yeah, if I were to make it again, I think I would do like a lighter color and use some mohair and make it also a lighter fabric, like a more open knit, because this is quite a dense knit. Although it's still like breathable and stuff and it drapes nicely, it is quite thick and warm. And in terms of wear, this is kind of how the sleeves are looking. Not like a ton of pilling, but it's definitely looking like I've been wearing it a lot, which I definitely have, but I did only finish it about a few weeks ago or a month ago, so I have been wearing it a lot since then, but it's already showing some kind of signs of wear and tear. Overall, I'm very happy with this though, and I'm happy to have finally kind of found my groove of getting the gauge and size right and kind of getting the right fabric parameters and stuff in terms of like weight and drape and thickness and everything down. So yeah, this one is a really good success. For this one, I also started making my sleeves a little bit longer because I had a couple times in the past where I'd been burned and I made the sleeves to length from the pattern and then looked at it on me and I thought to myself, oh, it's probably gonna block out, but then afterwards it doesn't really block out, and then I have to go rip back the ribbing and then make it a little bit longer. So I just preemptively made them about 5 centimeters longer this time, and this is like kind of like a perfect length for me, where it kind of covers my palms a little bit but not really my knuckles, so super happy with that too. And yeah, this is my Moby sweater. The next sweater that I have to share with you guys is my sweater number 15 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I knitted up this pattern using Drops Flora and the Sestreine mohair mix, which is a kid mohair and I think nylon blend. And I think I mentioned in a previous video, but this is like the itchiest garment or accessory, like the itchiest thing that I've ever knit. Just right now wearing my tank top underneath, like even not on like the neck, like throughout all the arms and the shoulder and the back, it is quite prickly. And it is really warm though, so I do wear it when it's really cold outside with like a turtleneck underneath, but that's kind of the only way that I can tolerate this directly next to skin. This was also the project I had where I realized I need to make my sleeves longer, so I added 2 entire lengths of the cabling towards the end of these, and that also meant that I had to unpick out, and I was completely done the sleeves at this point, so that meant I had to completely unpick all of the Italian bind off and twisted rib cuff. Thank goodness the cuff is only like an inch or so long, so it wasn't like the huge like 10 centimeter cuffs that some patterns have, but even just ripping that out using this mohair was really difficult, and I tried that trick where you put it in the freezer to see if it can help mohair stuff unravel it more easily, but it was still really tricky. So after that, I just decided to make all my sleeves a bit longer in the first place. I do really like the like fuzzy halo that this project has, and I like the kind of drapiness and the openness of the knit. One thing that I'm not sure how much I like about the fit is obviously since it has these cables going all the way down, it doesn't really have that tapering that you would expect on the sleeves. So I feel like the body is nice and boxy, but then right where the arm starts, it's weirdly thin, and it could just be a sizing issue for me too, or a gauge issue, but I feel like it just kind of makes me look like I have stick arms a little bit. But then it's like a nice kind of more open cuff at the bottom. So if I were to make this again, I would maybe size up. I did forget to mention, I'd made this in a size extra small. This was the first My Favorite Things knitwear pattern I'd ever made, and that was the size that was suggested to me based on my measurements, so that's what I did. But I think for my own personal fit style, I would have liked for it to be a little bit more open in the arms so that it kind of matches the fit of the rest of the body. But overall, I do really like this design, especially like the way that the cables go around the neckline and just like really pretty details like that, like down on the shoulder. If I were to make this again, first of all, I would obviously change the yarn composition I chose, but then also I would maybe not make it in this beige color. This was kind of when I was thinking like, oh, if I make all my stuff in neutrals, I can pair them with anything and get so much wear out of them. But in retrospect, this is a nice, perfectly fine beige, but I don't think it's really doing that much for me in terms of like undertone or anything. It just looks kind of like a little bit more dull or grayish than my skin tone, so it looks kind of strange next to my skin, or next to my hair. It looks a little bit more grayish next to my hair. I don't know. But specifically, I learned something from this, which was that, first of all, don't use this mohair for me personally, and second of all, I can choose other colors that are not just neutrals and beiges and it'll be fine. The next project I'm sharing with you guys is my Ingrid sweater. So this sweater in particular of mine has really been through the ringer. I've worn it dozens of times, and I finished it around February last year, so it's one of the things that I've gotten a ton of wear out of, and I brought it on my trip to Amsterdam last year, and it was the only warm sweater I was able to pack in my little carry-on luggage. So I wore it like every day while I was there, walking around, traveling, all that kind of stuff. And it really did keep me nice and toasty warm, but it's definitely got some wear and tear on it. It's probably my most pilled thing that I've ever made, and it's also got some like mysterious like dusty marks on it from being stored and stuff, so sorry about that. I definitely need to give this one like a good deep clean and depill. But I knitted this up using Patons Classic Wool Worsted again, and this time in the color Aran. And I also made a size small of this one. And this sweater was also one where the cuffs were a little bit too short for me, but because of the like motif that follows on the cuffs and on the neck and on the hem as well, where it's got like these two different lengths of rib, I thought it would be really awkward if I just made like the last length of rib really long compared to this one. So if I were to knit this again, I would suggest keeping in mind how long you want to make your sleeves, maybe like before you get to this part, so you can extend like the ribs a bit longer, or the like lattice part here a bit longer or something. Because if you just have to extend the last little rib, it's gonna look kind of unbalanced compared to the rest of it. But obviously I wear this a ton. In the pattern itself, I really like how there's like short row shaping for the start of the sleeves here. Personally, I know some people edit the pattern so that it just has like a regular crew neck or something on the neck, but I'm a huge fan of this exact like neckline. It was kind of one of the pattern or one of the design choices that I really liked when I chose this pattern. I just think it's so interesting to have the two different kinds of rib separated by the eyelet that's like matching the ones throughout the rest of the pattern motif. So no hate if you chose to do a different neckline for it, but I just really like this one and I think it's really flattering, and I need to add a little elastic in here so that it stays a bit closer to my skin. But even if it's like a little bit more of a funnel neck and like open, I still think it's really comfy and cute and flattering. And even though this is like a high neck kind of sweater with the wool that I used for this, it doesn't really bother me, so I can wear this with like a tank top or anything underneath, and I don't need to wear like long sleeves or something. Moving into my last sweater that I have to share with you guys, and I didn't even know if I wanted to mention this because it was like kind of a flop, but I wanted to share everything that I knit even if it was unsuccessful. I don't even know what to call this, but this is just my huge oversized raglan sweater. And I didn't follow a pattern for this, quite obviously, so it's kind of just giving like potato sack vibes a little bit. Yeah, so this is what it looks like.
This is what it looks like.
It's quite large, even for like an oversized fit. It's very much like I'm swimming in this kind of. The backstory for why I made this was I went to Michael's one day, and I know all of my stories always start with I went to Michael's and then this happened, or like guys warning, trigger warning, I went to Michael's. So yeah, I did go to Michael's. And this yarn, I don't have the label anymore for it, but it was called like some kind of roving twist or something. Obviously this wasn't actually roving because it was like, it's got like two different strands in it, so. But the title of the yarn was some kind of, it had the word roving in it somewhere, maybe Loops and Threads Roving. And it was these huge balls. They were like the size, they were bigger than my head. And they were on sale from $12 to like $3. And I was like, $3 for that huge thing? That seems almost like illegal. So I bought 3 of them and I was like, I could make something with this. And so it was my $9 sweater, and I wanted to see if I could make my own like raglan construction thing out of it. I had previously made a zipper sweater, so that was the only time I had done like a raglan construction, and I just had this like twisted rib, I think I even did. Yeah, like a twisted rib collar and then the raglan going on. I think if anything, I just continued the raglan like far too long down here. So if it was a bit tighter, it wouldn't have been as bad. Or maybe like the ratio that I did of like the front to the sleeves and the back was not right. But just something about the fit, even though it's oversized, is just giving like not the right proportions. And the sleeves also don't really taper that much, so they're like huge and gaping. And even if it was just like a fit thing, the actual yarn itself, maybe why it was on sale, was it just leaves these like kind of nasty acrylic-y, because this is obviously like 100% acrylic, these acrylic-y fibers everywhere. And if I wear like leggings with it or on my pants, it'll leave like these little sparkly plasticky acrylic tufts and strands everywhere. So this kind of just sits in the back of my closet because I don't want the rest of my wardrobe to be like infected with the acrylic particles. But yeah, I learned a lot of stuff. For example, don't try to make a huge raglan sweater with this. It was really quick to make because the gauge is so huge, so it wasn't like a waste of time, and it was kind of fun to try to make my own design or make my own pattern for something instead of following someone else's pattern. So it was still a valuable experience, but not valuable very much in terms of final object. So I have flops too, and this is probably my biggest flop of the year. My $9 Michaels sweater. Now moving on to my cardigan section that I've made this year. My first cardigan is the Maya cardigan by Helene Magnusson. So I did cast this one on in 2022, but evidently it did take me quite a while, so I did finish it in 2023. I knitted this one up using the Blue Sky Fibers Woolstock yarn, and I don't know why I jumped off into the deep end so much with this project, but this project was a first for me for a lot of stuff. It was the first time I had used a proper like nice yarn from my local yarn store instead of just going to Michael's for something or ordering something online. And it was also the first time I had done any color work. And big one that I didn't realize before I started the pattern, always read the pattern fully before you start, or at least the details of the project in the pattern notes, is this was a steeked pattern. So it was my first time doing a steek, which was also terrifying, combined with the fact that it was my first time buying nice yarn from a nice local yarn store. So once you steek it, it's kind of no going back. You can't unravel it. If you make a mistake or if you decide you want to repurpose the yarn for something, it's kind of done after that point. So very big commitment for this cardigan, but I'm very happy with it. The colors that I chose for this were pretty much almost exactly the same as the sample that they have in the pattern. The original I think is made with Eastex yarn, I think Letlopi or Plodlopi or something. But when I went to my local yarn store and I felt it, I was just like, you know, I appreciate the kind of Icelandic unspun yarn vibes, but it wasn't really what I wanted to go with for this project for myself. And I decided to go with Woolstock instead. And I also liked the color selection that they had for this a little bit more than the ones they had in the Eastex yarn. The colors that I chose, I think, really go together really nicely. Yeah, the yarn itself is super soft. It's not itchy or prickly at all. It's super warm and cozy and still really breathable. So I absolutely love the yarn, and I would love to make another sweater out of this someday or out of something else from Blue Sky Fibers. Yeah, my only comments about the pattern is that this was my first colorwork pattern, so I obviously was not able to like finesse the jog. But I mean, it's not really that noticeable, I guess. Obviously, since the body was done, I guess that's there. Since the body was done in the round and then steeked, the jog is technically like where the steek was. So there's no jog in the main body, which is nice. But on the little sleeve motif there is. And also the buttons that I used for it are a little bit smaller than would be recommended for the pattern. So sometimes if I'm wearing it, it's actually holding up, yeah, like that, like the buttons will kind of come undone. So I want to take like a little elastic string or something and kind of like make the holes a little bit smaller. But I don't think I would unravel the whole button band to make the buttons smaller at this point. I would just kind of do an ad hoc fix in post. I would also consider maybe putting like a crocheted edge around the neckline so that it doesn't like splay out too much over time just because I think it might stretch with the whole circular yoke thing. And just to show you guys a bit, because this is kind of why I chose this pattern specifically. I had never done any colorwork or Icelandic Fair Isle like stranded knitting or anything before, but I really liked how the bottom motif is like reflected from the top. Like it's so much more interesting than just having the dark blue go all the way to the end. So yeah, this is what it looks like at the bottom. You can clock my colorwork if you want. But yeah, I really love this pattern, and it was just something I randomly found on Ravelry as well. So I didn't have like inspo from Instagram or anything, or it was before I really got into the YouTube knitting podcasting community. So I liked that it was kind of something I found by myself, and I decided that it was my own project for myself. So yeah, this is my Maya cardigan. Huge win. I will comment though that this is kind of like the pilling situation I'm dealing with on the sleeves specifically. It's not that bad, but it definitely needs a little bit of a deep pill, but the rest of the body is totally fine. Also, I forgot to mention, but I did make this in a size small in the pattern. The next cardigan I have to share with you guys is my Agnete cardigan. This is my beloved Agnete cardigan, and I knitted this up using the Sandnes Garn Tin Peer Gint and Tin Silk Mohair. I think that it's one of the recommended yarn options that they have for it on the Petite Knit website. I can't really get easier yarn that easily here, or if I do, it's like really expensive. So I figured that going with the other recommended one would give me a good result, and it sure did. I also made this in a size medium because even though I know brioche like really blooms when you block it, I just wanted a really cozy, oversized kind of look. And I made the sleeves longer than the pattern calls for, and I think that they're like really the perfect length. The buttons that I have for it are these nice like shiny shells, and they look like a little bit fancy, but they're still like neutral, so I think that kind of goes good with it. One thing that I'll say, because this is also beige versus my sweater number 15 was also beige, and I was like hating on the beige for this one so much, I feel like this color kind of goes better with my skin tone and hair color versus this one. If you want to like look at them side by side, this one almost looks brown in comparison, but it's really not, I promise. And also, since this is like a cardigan that'll go on top of other clothes, I feel like if I was wearing like a different color shirt underneath or something, it can kind of break up the beige on beige of like my skin and the garment, versus if it's like a sweater, then there's no real separation between the sweater and my neck, you know? So maybe that's just cope, because I did really like this yarn a lot more than the combination I used for my sweater number 15, but this is probably one of my favorite projects I've made this year, probably my favorite project period that I made this year. It did take me a really long time just because the brioche was super tedious, but I think it was 100% worth it in the end. I always saw people like making memes about it online, like, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid of the Agnete because like what if you make a mistake, it's the end of the world, and like I don't know how to go back. But honestly, I had never done brioche stitch before this. If you want to make it, go for it. I don't think it was really that bad. It was just tedious, and going back to fix something in a previous row is a little bit confusing and tricky with the whole like yarn over thing, but you can figure it out. And if there's a will, there's a way. And I think it's a good challenge if you're a bit afraid of it, like, but it's still doable, you know? Highly recommend the pattern. Super cute fit. It looks like store-bought, but like in a good way. And the actual yarn combination itself, I don't find it like super itchy. Like it feels woolly on my skin, but not in like an itchy way. It's just like cozy. So yeah, and it's just gotten even softer since I've been wearing it. So I really do like the combination. And it hasn't really pilled as much as some of my other projects that I've been wearing the same amount. I think that's probably because of a combination of having the mohair, like silk mohair in with the wool, like kind of protects it from that. So yeah, super good combo. Super good pattern, absolutely love. 10 out of 10 do recommend. I do have a couple of like warm weather kind of spring summer knits that I want to talk about as well. First one here is my Anchor Tee, and this is what it looks like on. I know some people are kind of like vibing with the whole like circular yoke ribbing thing. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people just intrinsically don't like the style that much, but personally I think it's a really fun and unique neckline to have on a summer shirt or on a summer knit, and it was really fun to do as well. Like the increases every few rows, it was kind of like potato chippy, like getting to the next round of increases, and then you do a bunch of ribbing, so that was kind of like annoying, but at least like getting to the next row of increases was fun. And then after like, what is that, 5 or 6 of them, then you're done, and then you just have stockinette for the rest. I did make this in a size small. I was going to make an extra small, but then I wanted to size down in my needles because, you know, white t-shirt vibes. I wanted it to be fully opaque as a t-shirt. I know like shopping for t-shirts in the store, you always want to make sure your white t-shirts are like not see-through. So I thought, you know, I want my knit to be a little bit more tight and dense so that it's not see-through. And I think I accomplished that, but I think the fit is a little bit different than I expected it was going to be because of that. Namely, I think the yoke is supposed to like actually end kind of like around here, and like where it splits for the arms, like the armpit area is supposed to be a little bit lower down. And I still really love the shirt and it's really cute. It's almost like a bit more of like a baby tee kind of vibe afterwards, but it just wasn't 100% what I was expecting, which is fine. And I knitted this in the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, which was super nice to work with, and it gives a super nice airy drapey fabric that's nice to wear when it's warm out, so you don't feel like super hot wearing like a knitted thing in the middle of summer. So yeah, if I were to knit another one or another t-shirt, I think I would knit like a more oversized boxy kind of t-shirt now that I have this kind of more fitted style one. But yeah, it's super cute. And I think it's kind of like a staple thing you can wear. I think it's super cute with like a skirt or some linen shorts or something. So yeah, very happy with this one too. My next summer knit that I have is my Cami number 5 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I knitted this up using the Knitting for Olive Fingering weight wool in the color Slate Gray. And I made a size small of this. I really do love the details of like how the increases go along like the arm line, and then like how the knitted like collar versus the double knitted armbands are done afterwards. I think all those details are really cute. I love the whole like ribbing all throughout it. I feel like it looks something you would get at a store instead of being something that like you handmade yourself. So yeah, huge fan of all of the little details on this. I love the color that I did as well. Just in general, the Knitting for Olive Merino isn't like super hot or anything, but it is definitely a little bit warm. So if you're in a warmer climate, it might not be great to make this out of a wool versus a like plant fiber or something. So if I were to make this again, I think I would like to try it with a either cotton merino blend. At my local yarn store that I bought this at, they don't carry the Knitting for Olive cotton merino blend, just the regular merino. So if I could get my hands on the mixture one and make one, that would be fun, and in like a different color. I also think I would just modify the pattern for myself to have a little bit more of the ribbing start here instead of increasing out, because I just kind of wish it fit like a bit more like this versus springing back in. I know that that's the intended style, is to have that like scooped in neckline, but I think it would just work with more like cardigans and stuff on top if it wasn't as narrow at the top. And it would be like a lot more wearable if you like to wear like different bras and stuff underneath. But yeah, overall a cute staple, and I'm glad that I was kind of thinking of making like a black tank top, but then I'm glad I didn't, because that would have kind of hidden a little bit of the details with the ribbing and the increases and stuff. So I'm glad I chose gray in the end for this one. That's all for the garments, I guess, that I made this year, and now I just have some accessories that I've made. My first one is the Sophie shawl by Petite Knit. So I'm not a huge like shawl wearer, it's just not really in my style, but I am a ginormous scarf wearer. So I made this kind of because I just wanted a really huge scarf that could keep me warm and cozy. I have a lot of like outdoor jackets and coats that are like wool button-up ones with like a lapel, so I find that the rest of my body is always super warm, but then just that little like triangle where the collar is and the lapel is open is like really cold. So I wanted this so that I could just have something to keep me warm here and like tuck in the ends into my jacket because they're nice and thin. and then it'll keep me warm when I'm wearing those. So I also knitted this in the Patons Classic Wool Worsted yarn, and the color is Heath Heather, and I didn't really go by the size of the pattern. I just kind of increased until I was like, okay, I'm at the halfway point. And in total, I would say this is like 7 or 8 feet long. Like, it's extremely long. It even goes down like past my knees once it's doubled up around my neck like this. But I just wanted something that was really cozy, and it was a really affordable project because I only used 3 of the balls of this, 300-gram balls, I believe. So very versatile, keeps me super warm, cute color, goes with a lot of stuff. Can't complain, highly recommend. Yeah, not as much to say about the accessories versus the garments, but yeah, I do really like this one. And I wear it a lot in a lot of my pictures in like cold weather when I'm on trips and stuff. I'm wearing this in like every single one of them. So after the larger than life Sophie shawl that I made, I have the itty bitty teeny tiny Sophie scarf that I made. So normally I'm not really like a tiny scarf kind of person either, but I just thought this was really cute as like a tie kind of accessory. But I just think that this is really cute as like a little fancy accessory to put on. This is obviously not for warmth. Like, this doesn't really make me much warmer when I'm wearing it versus I'm not, but it's a kind of nice transitional piece, and it's just kind of for decoration versus for functionality. And it's really soft. I did knit this up using the Nordic Yarn Eco Cashmere in the color Camel, and I still have a ton left. A ton of like one skein, so I think I only used about half of it, so I think I'm gonna try and make some matching little fingerless gloves or something with the rest if I can squeeze that out of it. And the actual size that I ended knitting this to was either 20 or 22 stitches long, like at the widest point, and then I started decreasing because I just wanted it to tie like once like this around the neck and be like little small tails that end like that. And I also made it this length because I kind of wanted to wear it like a headband as well, maybe. Like, I don't really have the ability to tie it up right now and actually like make my hair look nice with it, but this was like kind of the vision that I had going. And then the ends are small enough that I could tie it in a little double knot like this, and it wouldn't be like too bulky in the back of my head, if that makes sense. Because then if you made it any wider, then the ends might be like really big and like obtrusive in the back there, but now it would be just like little cute little ends and it wouldn't get in the way. So yeah, I really do like this. I used 4.5mm needles I think for this, so warning, if you do hold this double and you want to make a similar thing to this, that's kind of the parameters I used to get this final result. And it was my first time knitting with a fancy cashmere yarn like this, so I'm really glad that I made like a little teeny tiny little staple piece with it. I still have not fixed the yarn surgery complications for this project, but I wanted to share it anyway. These are my penny gloves that I made using Knitting for Olive merino wool in the color Plum Rose, and I was holding it double. This was an airplane project for me. I think I mentioned in my previous episode where I basically made them a little bit longer than I anticipated because I didn't have my measuring tape with me on the plane, and then in the end when I was like finishing the little tiny last bit of the second glove, I ran out of yarn and I had to like take some from the middle of them, and now I'm just kind of making them grafted back together more pretty, but I'm having some struggles with making it look perfect. But this is what the color of the yarn looks like. It's like a kind of medium dusty pink, so I think it's really cute, and it's kind of like a fun pop of color while still being muted. And yeah, I definitely want to make more penny gloves in the future. And this was the first time that I actually bought the Knitting for Olive merino wool, so this precedes the cami number 5 that I made. So it was just my first try to like seeing how the yarn works and everything, and I liked how it felt. So yeah, cute accessory, not much to say about it though, and it's still looking a little weird, so we'll see how it looks when I actually like finish the little fixer-upper bits of it. So I don't wear a ton of hats, but I did knit a couple of different hats or like head garments this year. The first one that I made was this like kind of matching hat that I just kind of like made up for the Maya cardigan that I made, and I just had extra yarn of these colorways from it, so I kind of wanted to see if I could make a matching hat out of it using the colorwork motifs that are already in that pattern. This is what it looks like on, and I do like the motifs, like they are the motifs from the original cardigan. and it's kind of, the colorway is kind of giving like skiing energy, but I'm not sure how much of a fan of the like regular like skull cap, like slicked down toques that I am. I don't really wear them a ton, and this was mainly just like a project to see if I could make up my own pattern, like especially with the repetitions of the motifs, like see if I could make it line up with the math and like make my own design for it myself. So it was more just like for fun versus actually a wearable piece. So I've only worn this a few times, but it's cute. And if you wanted to wear it with the Maya cardigan, then it would be like a funky little matching set, I guess. And as you can see, this was very much before I learned about jogless jogs, so the join in the middle is like kind of noticeable. So yeah, just kind of a testament to the different things that I've learned doing color work since then. The next thing that I've made is I made this balaclava. So this is the balaclava I made when I was looking on Ravelry for a pattern for a balaclava that really fit like the style that I was looking for. I ended up following this pattern that was, I think, from World War I, and it was a really interesting like period like historical document of like how to make these different things like woolen socks and this wool balaclava to keep the troops warm when it was cold out. And I thought it was super interesting that, you know, in 2023, all of these years later, like over 100 years later, and actually I do really like the fit of it. It was really simple construction, and it was one of those old patterns where it doesn't have like pages and pages of description of how to make it, but it was more like just knit this until it's X centimeters and then pick up like every other stitch and then knit it until it's like about that long and then do some ribbing. Like it was a very like maybe a paragraph of actual instructions versus like multiple pages that I think are seen in more modern patterns. And it was also interesting to see how the vibe of pattern writing has changed over time and in different eras. So seeing how people used to write the knitting patterns and the kind of abbreviations and everything they used to use and how everything was formatted versus how it looks now was super interesting. I'm definitely a huge fan of this. I wear this way more than my hats because I think that it's kind of a little more interesting and cute, and it keeps your ears warm and it doesn't like mess up your bangs too much in the front. So I definitely want to make some more balaclavas, and I want to see if I can make some more that are like my own design instead of using a pattern for it too. So I think that's something that I'm interested in doing more in 2024, so we'll see how that goes. I did knit one other hat this year, but I don't have it with me because it was a gift. I knitted a Snorlax hat for my boyfriend for Christmas, and I basically just used Stitch Fiddle to make like an intarsia pattern of like the little beige part in the Snorlax face. And it was like a rectangle that I just folded in half so that it had like the little ears on it. I'll put a picture up, and then I just like stitched in, like embroidered afterwards, the like eyes and mouth, and it was like really cute. And I think I just used like a Loops and Threads yarn from Michaels to do that one so that I could get the color match on point. So yeah, obviously I don't have that one with me anymore, but it was a hat that I made, so I wanted to include it. The last group of accessories that I made this year were socks, and for these I'm just going to be like holding them up and putting a picture of them from when I first made them instead of trying them on, because I think that might be a little bit easier to do. So the first pair of socks that I made were these just regular vanilla socks. The pattern that I used for these socks are the Anthony socks, but they are just really like vanilla socks. They've got like a 2x2 rib cuff and then a slip stitch heel and gusset, and then just sort of like a regular toe, top down, classic construction. I've never made toe up socks. I do want to try that though. And the yarn that I used for this was the Patons Croy sock in the color Cascade Colors. And all the socks that I made this year are in Patons Croy sock of different types. So spoiler alert, but yeah, I do like the yarn. It's pretty hard wearing. I haven't had any holes or anything in these, even though I've worn them a lot. And I thought that this, even though I usually don't have like interesting crazy stripy yarns like this, I thought it would be kind of fun to at least have socks that are a bit more interesting because they're kind of hidden in your outfit and people don't see it as much. So yeah, the next pair of socks that I made were the Petal Drop socks handmade by Florence. She put out a pattern and a whole tutorial for these, and it was my first time doing lace socks, so I thought it would be a good way to start out. I used Croy sock in the color Gentry Gray for these, and if I could remake these, and I probably will because they're just super cute, I'd probably just use like a lighter color, but I just had this in stash, so I wanted to get rid of it. And I'm just glad I didn't use black because obviously that would hide a lot of the details of the pattern. And a really good tutorial if you're new to making socks in general, or especially if you're new to making lace socks, which it was my first time making lace socks. So yeah, big fan of these ones. The last pair of socks that I made were also by Handmade by Florence. These are the Mountain Walk socks, and I just did a little bit of modification and put like a twisted rib bit at the top, just because I kind of like that in the other socks that I had made. And I made this in the Patons Croissant in Clover colors, and it's just kind of got this very infrequent color change, so they look a little bit different between each sock, but I think that it's still really cute and I actually kind of like it. I love how the little cables are actually faux cables, so you don't have to bring a little cabling needle around or deal with that. And the repeat for them is super simple, so you don't need to like keep consulting the pattern or anything. I definitely want to make another pair of these sometime eventually too. I think socks are just so easy to make and quick that you might as well make like a whole bunch. So yeah, I've become a handmade sock fanatic this year. That concludes my list of everything I knit in 2023. Thanks for watching and listening, and let me know what plans you have for knitting in 2024 in the comments. I'll try to link all of the patterns and relevant information for all of my projects below. It might take me a while to find links for everything, so please bear with me. And I also have my Ravelry linked in the description, and I put a knitting Instagram that I have, or like a crafting Instagram that I'm trying to start up. I'm not really sure what I'm going to be posting on there or if many people are interested in that, but just in case, I have that linked below as well. Yeah, I also wanted to talk about some knitting inspiration that I have for 2024. I don't know if I want to call it goals or plans, because then that kind of makes me feel like I'm liable and accountable to actually finish it, but I just want it to be a little bit more chill, so it's just like inspiration. But obviously this video is already so long that I think I'll just upload a different video for that. So in the meantime, thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! I did this as a joke, but it's like kind of a serve. Like this kind of goes hard, does it not? Okay.